So Wuthering Waves has already had its first bit of drama, and it's not even 24 hours since the game has launched. And ironically enough, within those 24 hours of certain people kicking up a massive storm, the devs have already addressed it and issued out a compensation for the problem, and have made note that they are going to work hard to fix it. And this problem is the optimization that some players are having to make the game basically unplayable for them. And I'm not going to say that there are no optimization issues, because certainly every live service game like this is going to have its fair share of issues. And they'll certainly exist. Just because I personally haven't experienced any sort of optimization problem or slowdown, stuttering, lagging, any of that, my gameplay has been absolutely smooth as butter for the 8 or so hours I've been playing right now. But that doesn't mean the problems don't exist for other players. However, as is pretty common with online communities, the ones who have the problem are always online making noise about them, while those who don't, like myself, are too busy not being online, being in-game, and enjoying the actual game. So it looks like it's it appears that, you know, everybody can't play the game, and it's a failure of a launch and the game is a flop. But that's just not the case. That's just a very loud minority making noise on Reddit and Twitter because they can't be in the game. But there's so much vitriolic negativity around this situation right now that it almost feels like it comes off as bad faith actors, in a sense, with just some of the most brain dead points that are being made, which is, it's disingenuous because it's clouding the actual issues that the game has, with basically nothing burgers and false comparisons. Like, for example, there's a lot of comparisons to, say, Tower Fantasy, and how Wuthering Waves is in no state of release and is infinitely worse than what Tower Fantasy was on launch, which is baffling at best. I was there for Tower Fantasy's launch, and it was beyond rough. Like, Wuthering Waves, outside of a couple of like story issues and, you know, the English voice acting, there is everything else about the game is in a perfectly solid state for a release. But you get takes like that where it's, you know, oh, Wuthering Waves it's worse than Tower Fantasy, it's a dead game, it's flop. And that's just not constructive. The devs cannot do anything with that information. If you really are having problems with the game, go in here, this feedback form, select feedback, put in what problem you're having, your system specs, and that will help Kuro identify the problem so that they can start rolling out more hotfixes. Or you can just continue to feed into the hate circle jerk that's going on and not actually contribute to anything. So it's, you know, up to you, I guess. Now, that's not to say that Wuthering Waves doesn't have its issues. I'm not gonna like fully completely glaze over the game. It does have its issues. Its story is its story is bad. Anybody playing Wuthering Waves for the story is going to be solely disappointed, because it's just, it suffers from the standard gacha convention of having a dry ass info dumpy beginning of a storyline where you don't know what anything is, what's going on, and it takes forever to get interesting as all these characters are just yapping at you. Wuthering Waves is no different. I mean, there's I can count the number of good gacha stories from the very beginning in one hand, and Wuthering Waves is not one of them. That's just how that turns out. And then I'm playing with JP voices, so I think the JP voices are fantastic, but apparently the English dub is very less than stellar, which, you know, I'll take word for that, because I don't think there's been a single good thing I've heard or read about the English dubbing. But that is certainly an issue that, you know, Kuro would need to improve for like future events and future updates, because, you know, that's a big section of, you know, their global audience is everybody who's going to be playing in the English dub. That's going to directly impact their enjoyment of the game. So that's something that would need to be improved upon. But again, the whole point of this is to just address the extreme reactions to these optimization issues. The game was never going to launch in a perfect state. It was going to have its optimization issues regardless of how long they waited to release it. Every live service game has them. Genshin Impact had its own fair share of optimization issues. Not as much, granted, but they still had some. As well as like other glitches that, you know, also exist in Wuthering Waves, because it's a very big game. You can't catch everything in one glance. So as these things happen, that's what the feedback button is for. And, you know, you're able to catch them. Is it a excuse for them to exist? No, but I mean, you can, there's two options you have. You can, you know, you can choose to bitch about it and do nothing, or you can just report them and move on and enjoy the game for what it is. And then hopefully those issues get fixed later. But again, this was just to address the hyper extreme reaction of those having issues, and just like a sort of a word of caution or advice to the community, in that just chill out, hold your horses, let Kuro actually address the issue before we decide flipping our shit and sending death threats to the devs, because they are getting death threats. Surprise, surprise. Which is never an acceptable reaction to anything. But instead of acting like absolute psychos, just chill out, give them time to respond, see what they do. Now, if the Kuro devs decided to, after all of these reports and issues, if they decided to, yeah, no, tough shit, if you can't play, then get better hardware, I guess, scrub, then that's perfectly justifiable reason to be outraged and upset. But when they issue a gaming experience of compensation for all the issues that are happening less than 24 hours when the game launches, I think we can afford to give the devs the benefit of the doubt and, you know, allow them the time to make the improvements and changes so that the people who want to play the game can actually get into the game and play it. So that's just my little mini rant that I have going on right now. It's just really frustrating to see a bunch of people who are kind of obsessed with Wuthering Waves to fail and are desperate to make it seem to be a bad game for, you know, their own personal reasons. And, you know, sort of clouding the actual means of improving the game and feedback. That was a little weird. So it's just frustrating to see that sort of talk going around online. Again, this is not to completely absolve Kuro of everything going on. I mean, they are making the changes, so that's already a good step in the right direction. So I think we just need to give them time to implement those suggestions. And again, this is not to completely glaze Wuthering Waves. I will be going over my own criticisms in a separate video, because I do have them Even early on in the beginning, I'm, you know, still only in Act 4 of the main story, but I still have my fair share of criticisms with all of that, that I will be making a video on within the next day or so as I get more game time under my belt. But in the meantime, all I'd ask for the community and those waiting to play the game, if you're having issues, is to have a little bit of patience. You're not going to miss out on, you know, a once in a lifetime gaming experience. The game isn't going to go anywhere. They are going to end up being fairly successful despite this little setback. So in, you know, a day or two, when they have more hot fixes rolling out, more emergency patches, just give it another shot, see if you could get in. If not, keep sending that feedback so that you can actually be constructive and help the Kuro devs out in improving this game, because it is a wonderfully crafted game. It's absolutely stunning, and I do think that as many people as possible should be able to kill rabbits like that. But they should be able to enjoy this game that Kuro has crafted. So all I ask is to have a little bit of patience. They're working on it, and I do think with enough patience, it's going to pay off, and you will be able to enjoy the game fairly soon. But that's all I have to say for today. So let me know down below if you are having any issues with optimization, or can you run the game fairly smoothly and have no problem playing. I will be streaming the game fairly regularly on my Twitch at twitch.tv/Actius_Loon. So you can head over there if you want to just stop by, hang out, say hi. That'd be all cool and everything. Otherwise, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will be having more Wuthering Waves content coming soon. So I will see you all then.